Hey, how are y'all today? Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, welcome. My name is Rachel. I also go by May on my Instagram account, and I also have a blog which I use the name May on as well. Today I am bringing you what will hopefully be a new series on my channel. And I don't really have a title for it yet, but I'm kind of going off the idea of not your basic book recommendations. And since this will be the first video of its kind, I will take the beginning of this video to explain a little bit more of the concept behind what I will be talking about today. But I like to let you guys know what I'm going to hopefully achieve through this series. And this series will be where I will recommend books, so it's not a best of or top anything. But I will recommend books under a certain category and will include information from those books of why they fit into that category. And this information will be not just simple summarization of the books. It will also include information about like the authors if it is necessary to the book. I'm also going to do topics that aren't always talked about. Today's topic is mental illness, and I will be introducing 5 books that talk about mental illness in a correct way, and I will talk about specific details about the books and why they fit into this category, why I'm recommending them, and any pertinent information that goes along with it. But please feel free to comment down below any topics you want to see me talk about. It can be serious topics like this, or it can be more like softer topics like books set in a certain city or books here. And also feel free to leave down below any recommendations of books you feel are not recommended enough, some of your favorites that you never see on BookTube, just anything like that. That's what the whole purpose of this series is to introduce you guys to books that you might not be aware of or see as often on the internet, or you might skip over because they're not as big in the limelight. That's my little introduction done. Let's move on to the books. I do not have any young adult novels or anything that is not adult or kind of a classic novel, so I do apologize for that, but I have currently not found any young adult novels that deal with mental illness in a way that I genuinely enjoy. If you have any suggestions, please leave them down below. I will be glad to pick them up and read them. So I have a little notebook that has notes in it, so if I keep looking down, that is why. The first book I have is a little bit kind of, I think you would find it surprising that I have it. If you studied this book, you wouldn't be surprised. It is King Lear by Shakespeare. This is one of his tragedies, and it depicts one of the main characters, Lear, as he descends into what you might consider madness. It has many interpretations, and even the scenes at the end have been rewritten during the period of time where people were like, oh, this is too depressing, we need to have a happy ending. So it has a really sad ending. The portrayal of old age and losses that come with it and how mental health connect with it. And it's not just Lear, there's also a character in here who pretends to be a mad beggar, and he has to pretend to be mad. You can see the ties of supporting people with mental illness or like supporting people who are just old. And it's a really good book. I can't read Shakespeare without help, and this has a lot of help. So don't feel bad if you're like, I can't read Shakespeare. Like, Shakespeare is honestly amazing if you study it. The second one is probably more heard of, and it is The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. But this is an excellent book when talking about mental health. This is about Esther Greenwood. Yeah, Esther Greenwood, as she starts in a promising position in life, and then it begins to decline. Her mental state starts to drop. She doesn't find interest in things she found interest before, and she experienced depressions. There's even an attempted suicide within here, and it even goes into how Esther spends time in an asylum and receives shock treatment and the effects of bad therapy and good therapy. What also adds to this novel is the fact that Sylvia Plath herself struggled with depression, and that this mimics her own life. It was published in 1963 under a pseudonym, and it was her first novel. Sylvia Plath wrote poems and its central themes were very connected to her early life. She herself had a suicide attempt. She spent time in an asylum. She, like Esther, went to electric shock therapy. But on February 11th, 1963, the same year this was published, she committed suicide. So the kind of truth behind this novel is lost with her death. Really sad to consider, but the end of this novel can almost be thought of as ending in a positive light, and yet the author herself took her own life, and it just touches on many things within life. If you're struggling with depression, this is a great read for it, and it's a wonderful classic. The next book is actually an autobiography, and it is An Unquiet Mind by Kay Redfield Jamison. This is a memoir. I always get those terms confused. This is a memoir where she explores her own manic depression. She is a professor of psychiatry and a leader in the study of a manic depressive illness, so she herself is actually a psychologist. So this isn't just like this is someone who actually has experience within the field of studying mental illness, who's exploring her own experience with her own mental illness. It shows the ups and downs of manic depressive episodes, of the effects of medication, of how she feels when taking medication, how she doesn't want to take it, and how she refuses to accept help. It also explores into the fact that she doesn't want to admit she's ill, which is very common, the fact that you're like, I'm not ill, I don't want to admit it. This is kind of coming about when manic depressive disorder hadn't really been fully diagnosed yet, and it kind of goes into when they just start the treatments of Valium. I think that's the medication. But this is a fantastic read. It's a very honest look into her mind, and also kind of a comparison of what it is to see a mental illness from someone who is mentally ill and also who is a psychiatrist. Next one that I have is another fiction book, and it is The Marriage Plot by Jeffrey Eugenides. This is set in the 80s. And it follows 3 characters as they end college and enter into adult life. Main characters are Madeline, Leonard, and Mitchell. And this kind of has a romance in it, but if you know me, I hate romance, so this is not a traditional romance story at all. Leonard, one of the main characters in this book, has bipolar disorder, and it goes into his relationship with the other 2 characters, especially Madeline. It goes into their married life, how she deals with it, how he deals with it. It's a great book to show a relationship of someone who's placed into the care of someone who's mentally ill, and how they respond to whether they want to take the responsibility of that, whether they don't want it, how they handle the responsibility, and how it affects them as well. And it doesn't just focus on the person who's mentally ill, and it shows the ups and downs, the highs and the lows. And it also has a side plot. I say side plot because I think it is, with Mitchell, where he's across the seas and he's experiencing his own growth, not related to mental illness, but he experiences his own growth and realizations and thoughts. It just shows the harsh realities of choices and the harsh realities of love. And the ending of this book you'll either love or hate. And then the last book I don't have notes on because I'm the worst, but it's The Vegetarian by Hong Kong. Oh, I can't pronounce anyone's names. This is the most recent book of all the books I'm talking about today, and this was actually pretty popular within the adult fiction, I believe. This is definitely an adult novel. It has very heavy themes, very heavy sexual content. This is a novel that contains 3 different sections. Each 3 different sections has a different point of view and a different focus, and each point of view actually kind of has almost a different writing style she utilizes to convey. This book was originally written in Korean, and I have to translate it in English because I don't read Korean. It's a really great book to see mental illness in other cultures. Okay, so the the main character is, please forgive my pronunciation, I know French and English, not Korean. Young Hui and her husband live together. The main character is Young Hui, and she begins to have these dreams, and these dreams cause her to stop eating meat. And her husband reacts violently towards that, her family reacts violently towards that, and they want to reassert her control over her. And the concept of it is the fact that Youngwei is trying to take control of her own life through this action of not eating meat, but others are perceiving it as something wrong, and then it turns into more, and like I said, you get 3 different viewpoints, so it delves very deep into this idea of mental illness. But again, it's kind of one of those of how people react when they're given to care for someone who's mentally ill, how people react when they are faced suddenly with this difference of a person that they thought was this way and now they're suddenly changed by something. It's a great read. I really enjoyed it. So those are all my suggestions for this little not your basic book recommendation. I really hope that you pick these books up. If you do, let me know down below. If you have read any of these books, let me know how you enjoyed them. If you agree with me that they're good representations of mental illness. Like I said, if you have any books that you want to recommend for me to read, like young adult novels that contain mental illness, please comment those down below. Also, please comment down any topics or books you want to see later in the future. That would be wonderful because I am one person and I can't always think of these ideas, and it would be fantastic to have a whole bunch of input on what I should talk about next. But I hope to see you guys next time. Bye!